Can't stand short cords, especially on 220-volt tools. Welcome back to another episode of Research Design Build. I really hated how power tool manufacturers put such short cords on their power tools. Now I know why they do it, it's because it's cheaper, but personally I like to be able to move them around, and I only have so many 220-volt outlets. So I'm going to start by removing the original cable, and this one was only about 6 feet long. So the larger cable that I'm going to be putting on, I am stepping up to a larger gauge cable as well, and for that I'm going to need a larger strain relief. Now these strain reliefs are sized for the gauge and size of cable you're using, so make sure you get the right one. So now I've fed it through the machine, and now I've got all of the wires up at the switch. Now you want to start stripping back some of the exterior cable there, and you just want to make sure that you're not cutting down into your power and ground wires. With this particular cable, I have some cardboard in there that acts as kind of like a strain relief for it, so you want to cut that back. And then I have taken about 1/2 inch of insulation off of each wire. Now for the two power wires here, they both had these little clips on them, so I had to go and grab some of those. Each tool manufacturer is going to be a little different. I think these are a little bit of a pain in the butt. Once you have yours disassembled, you can see what your connections are. Hopefully you've just got screw terminals. Those are a heck of a lot easier. So because of that, I have used some heat shrink tubing, and I could not find my proper heat gun, so I just used a mat. It works, you just got to work a little bit quicker. I did use a Moret here for the ground wires, and I also like to tape those up to make sure that as I'm moving things around that the Moret isn't loosening itself up as I sort of stuff everything back into the box. With that completed, we can put the 4 screws in for the actual box and the 2 screws that go in for the start-stop button, which I really didn't need to remove in the first place. Just be careful, these are going into plastic, so tighten accordingly. Once that's completed, you can tighten up the cable underneath and through the machine, making sure that you've got a little bit of slack, but not so much slack that you're going to cause yourself some grief. And then you can tighten up both sides of the strain relief. Now that we've got that completed, we're on to the plug. When you're out shopping for plugs, there are probably a few different qualities of plugs. I would highly recommend going to the more expensive, more robust sort of industrial style plug. You'll get a lot more useful life out of them, and the chances that the cable starts to pull out of the back of them and cause yourself some potential electrical issues down the road is probably significantly reduced. Once you take this apart, that you put the back of the plug on first, and that way you don't have to redo this. I've done that a few times in the past, and once you get the terminals on there and everything is looking great and you realize you don't have the back of the plug on, you got to undo everything. Wiring up these plugs, if you haven't done it in the past, it's a little tricky because you only want to strip off about 1 inch worth of cable. And so that does make it a little tight to work in. But what that means is that when you do have the plug all together, you aren't going to have any of the little wires sticking out the back, and it's going to look like a very professional and safe installation. You'll want to strip off about 1/4 inch of the insulation off each of the 3 wires, and you can start by attaching the ground wire, which in this case for this plug is the bottom terminal and is green in color. Now the black and white wires, those doesn't really matter which side they go on, but those are going to go on the upper 2 plugs that are parallel to each other. Because we have such a little cable to work with here, or such little wire to work with here, it is pretty tight, but again, this is going to get you that really professional and safe looking cord at the end. Once I get everything secure, I do like to give it a little tug and make sure that all of the connections are tight. You want to make sure that all the wires for each cable are making a secure connection into the correct terminal. So with all that done, you can start sliding the back cap back over the front of the plug, and there is a way that these fit, and so you have to just make sure that everything's lined up correctly. And then you can start tightening down the front screws on the plug. Again, these are just going into plastic, so make sure you tighten accordingly. And then the final step is just the 2 screws that are there to clamp down the cord, and make sure that when you pull on the cord itself that you're not pulling it right out of the terminals. And there you go, guys. Now with this extended cord onto this tool, I can now position this tool anywhere in my workshop and reach my 220-volt plugs. Now, as I work on different projects, I do like to move my tools around the shop and coordinate them based on what I'm working on, and so this is going to be super helpful. As always, if you have any questions in regards to this project or any others that you see on the channel, please leave it in the comments section below and I'll make sure to get back to you.